Hey guys, this is Young's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making a New York strip steak with mango salad on the side. It's a very refreshing treat for the summer and the fall. So here we have a New York strip steak. I bought it from Walmart. It was a really nice cut. I recommend you guys could go there too and get yourself a nice steak. You're going to want to take it out, examine it of course, make sure it's nice, firm, it's tender. We're going to rub some olive oil over it for the seasoning. Rub salt and pepper in. Really marinate that seasoning into the steak. You want the juices to be coated with the seasoning itself. So you want that really nice brown on the outside with the seasoning, and it really locks in the flavor on the inside as well. You want to make sure that both sides of the steak are equally coated. Make sure both sides of the steak are well rubbed in. Really massage the seasoning into the steak itself. That really creates the flavor that we're going to be looking for here. Now the ratio for the seasoning is going to be 1 tablespoon salt, 1 tablespoon pepper, and half a tablespoon of chipotle powder. The chipotle powder is really going to bring that smoky flavor when you put it on the grill, and it's giving a nice touch to the steak itself. Now with the olive oil and the seasonings, it's going to create sort of a dry wet rub. Your steak is going to be a little bit sandy on the outside, and you want to make sure you rub all sides of the steak equally with that seasoning. Again, I cannot stress how important it is to evenly season your food, because you don't want half your steak to be tasteless while the other half like a feast. It just doesn't make sense. Anyways, once that skillet is nice and hot, you're going to want to drop the steak in there. I would cook it about 5 minutes on each side. You want to make sure it gets a really nice brown on both sides, so that way you know the flavor is sealed into the steak. Toss in some garlic while you're grilling the steak as well. You want to use whole cloves of garlic, and you want them to get that really golden brown color on the garlic. Personally, for me, I grill a little bit longer. It gets a little bit more darker. It's really just up to each person's preference, so you can really grill it however you want. Now, the key step to this is to make sure that none of the items on the grill are burning. Now, just because the garlic turns brown or dark brown doesn't mean it's burning. You'll be able to tell when it's burning when you have that smell. When you have the steak and the garlic settled in, you want to toss in that butter and coat the butter over the steak as it melts in the pan. That's going to give the steak a really nice, rich, buttery flavor. The butter and the garlic combined and the seasonings is going to create an aroma of flavors that just can't describe. You have to be there, of course. It's going to be delicious. Now you want to make sure the steak is cooked thoroughly on each side, and that includes the edges of the steak itself. Now you wouldn't grill the edges for about 5 minutes. I would say 1 minute to 2 minutes on each side would be good enough for the sides, but you want to make sure you get the top and bottom. The left and right isn't too necessary because there's not too much surface area, but the top and bottom sides, you definitely want to make sure they get a nice grill in on the cast iron skillet. When you finish the grilling process on the stove for the steak, you're going to want to toss it into the oven for that finish. I'm grilling my steak to a medium, so I'm going to toss it into the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 3 minutes. If you want medium rare, I would recommend maybe 1.5 to 2 minutes, and then take it out of the oven, of course. Now, while the steak is finishing in the oven, we're going to prep the mango salad. First, you want to chop up some onions. I would say maybe an onion to 1.5 onion would be good enough for this recipe. It just depends on how big the onion is. Preferably when you get the onion, you want to use Vidalia onions. Those are sweet onions and it'll give a really nice flavor to the mango salad. Next we have some cilantro. Again, you want to dice it up finely so that you can put it into the salad, and it'll go add a really nice flavor to that mango salad. It almost gives it that refreshing flavor for the salad. We have also 1 mango in there and 1 large beefy tomato. That's what I call them. The big tomatoes, pretty much. You want to make sure they're ripe and juicy so that they're very flavorful on the inside. Now, I would say the hardest part about preparing the mango salad is preparing the mango itself. Cutting the mango is actually relatively easy. You want to make sure you wash the outside, and then you can cut it in half with a knife and stop at the pit and go around so that it becomes two halves. From there, I chopped it into quarters by cutting them in the halves pretty much in quarters. To get the mango out from the skin itself, I would recommend using a spoon. With the spoon, when the mango is ripe and juicy, you can pretty much peel the meat off with little to no resistance and pretty much scrape the mango meat off. This is going to make sure that you have a whole chunk of mango coming off the mango as opposed to little bits and pieces that you might grab with your hand. Now, once you get all your ingredients assembled together, you want to make sure you have a big bowl for the mixing. As you can see, I have a white bowl to my left, so that I'm going to use that bowl for the mix as well. The mango is really going to add a nice touch to the salad because it's going to bring in those summertime memories. Next up, we have the beefy tomato. You want to dice that and cut it into small chunks if you can. You could dice your onions the same way, but it really just depends on how you want your salad to look. Some people like chunkier pieces. Some people prefer small pieces. Whatever size it is, the flavor is going to be the same. You just want to make sure you add those ingredients in the quantities that I described earlier. Now, when you're mixing the salad, make sure you don't over salt it. That's a major mistake for a lot of foods, is if you add too much salt in the beginning, there's really no way you can fix it. So really watch the salt intake. The salad itself is very simple. Just tomatoes, cilantro, mangoes, onions, a little bit of salt, a dash of vinegar, and some canned black beans, of course. Now, I would recommend you put everything together first before you start salting it, because you're going to want the whole mesh of flavors in there when you taste it so that you know how much salt you want to put in. With the onions done, you're going to grab your can of beans. Go ahead and open that stuff up. Personally, I would like to boil my own beans, but because of the time constraint, we're going to use canned beans today. Canned beans are actually just as tasty as the beans that you boil, and you get them a lot faster. They're pretty much ready right out of the can. You're going to want to pour the bean juice out though. Drain the beans from the bean juice and then toss the beans inside the salad. I used about 3/4 of a can. You can use the whole can if you really like beans. It just depends on what your preference is, but I would suggest at least half a can so you get a really good ratio of veggies to beans in the salad. Now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of vinegar into the mix. Any tablespoon would be fine. Just grab one from your local pantry. Now, after I toss in vinegar, I'm going to toss in 2 tablespoons of salt. Initially, I did 1, but I realized that wasn't enough salt, so for me, I added 2. Now, for you guys, it's based on your preference. Again, you could either add 1 or 2. Personally, I like 2, but if you guys want something with less sodium, then yeah, go ahead and add 1. You want to give that salad a really nice mix so that it comes out all balanced. The flavors really pop in the salad, and it's going to look really nice next to your steak. And we're not even talking about the flavors just yet. Once the 3 minutes is up, you want to go ahead and take that steak out from the oven. The oven is at 400 degrees, so you do want to make sure you take it out as soon as that timer hits. The steak is going to continue to cook in that cast iron skillet once you take it out. So make sure you don't leave it in the oven too long. With the steak taken out, we're going to move it onto a plate, and then we're going to caramelize some onions in the steak, garlic, and butter juices. It's going to create a really nice beefy flavor for the onions. And then you're going to want to add some sugar and chicken broth for that extra richness. It's basically almost like a gravy. The only thing I didn't add was flour to thicken it, but if I added some flour, it would have been more of a gravy consistency. Now while that is finishing up on the stove, while we're waiting for the onions to caramelize with that rich brown sugar, we're going to cut the steak. The steak, you want to cut it in pretty big pieces. You don't want the steak to be sliced too thin so that you get big bites in. Now, we're going for medium, and as you can see, the steak is pinkish on the inside, but on both sides it's brown. So that is exactly what we're looking for here. A medium steak, medium New York strip steak that's grilled to perfection, at least in my book. If you guys want medium rare, like I said earlier, you would just leave it in the oven for 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, right now I'm just plating some steak, making sure it looks really nice for the presentation I'm going to show you later. Wow, just look at that steak. It looks phenomenal. Anyway, with all the ingredients assembled together, guys, this is the presentation I have for you guys earlier, like I was going to said. The rice pictured here was not shown in the cooking video, but I'm sure you guys know how to cook some rice. Right here, we're going to show you some plating techniques. I got a bowl and put some rice into it, and put it on the plate so that it has that round circular shape. With the rice set up like that, I'm going to put my steak, my onions with the gravy on top of the rice. The rice and the sauce is going to make a really nice flavor combination along with the steak and mango salad, of course. This is a very simple plating technique. This is just how I wanted to plate it, guys. This is not any professional plating techniques or whatever. But voila, final dish.
The plating looks organized.